I'm going to show you the 5 essential chord types that you need to know to get started playing jazz. So here we go. In this video, I'm going to show you the 5 essential chord types that you need to know in order to get started playing jazz. And believe it or not, with only these 5 chord types, you're going to be able to play through most of the famous jazz standards. In other words, you'll be able to take a fake book like this one here and flip to almost any page and play a tune at first glance. And you can imagine how useful this is if you're going to a jam session or you're going to play on a gig. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to practice these chords so you can really get them under your fingers. So the 5 chord types we're going to learn here are the major 7th, the dominant 7th, the minor 7th, the half-diminished 7th, and the fully diminished 7th. So first we're going to go through all 5 chord types, starting with the root on the 6th string. And then we're going to look at the same 5 chord types, starting with the root on the 5th string. So the first chord type to look at is the major 7th. Here I'm playing a G major 7th, and this chord consists of the root, the major 3rd, the 5th, and the major 7th. And the way I'm playing it here is that I have my index finger on the 6th string 3rd fret, playing the note G here, and then I have my ring finger playing the F sharp, which is on the 4th string on the 4th fret, and then I'm taking my pinky and playing the 3rd string on the 4th fret, and finally my 3rd finger is playing on the 2nd string on the 3rd fret. G, F sharp, B, and D. And you can hear that the major 7 sound is a bright, positive, happy kind of sound. And what I want you to notice as we go through each of these different chord types is that they each have a different tonal quality or mood or vibe to them. Now, as guitar players, we tend to start out learning our bar chords first, like this G major chord here. And one thing I want to point out is that with this bar chord, we have some of the notes being doubled. Like we have the G here, and then we have the G here an octave up. We also have the D and this D. So both of these notes are being played twice in the chord, like this. But in jazz, we tend not to do that so much. We tend not to repeat the notes. As you can see with the G major 7th chord, we have each note being played only once. We have the G, B, D, and F sharp. Now the cool thing is that to go through all the chord types in the order I'm showing you, all we have to do is move one note. If we start from the major 7th chord, for example, we can just move the F sharp down a half step or down 1 fret to the F natural. And there we have the G dominant 7th chord. This consists of the notes G, B, D, and F natural, or the flatted 7th. And this chord type has more of a country or blues type sound to it, you could say. So to get this chord, again I'm placing my index finger on the 6th string 3rd fret, and then I've got my middle finger on the 4th string 3rd fret, and then I'm taking my pinky and playing on the 3rd string on the 4th fret. And then finally I have my ring finger playing on the 2nd string on the 3rd fret. What's really important when practicing these chords is that you want to make sure every note rings out clearly. You see how you can hear every note in this chord? You want to avoid any dead notes or muffled notes. And a couple things that help with this are keeping your fingers straight up, so don't let your knuckles buckle or hit more than one string. And also try to keep your fingers as close as possible to just behind the fret. Now we can move on to the minor 7th chord. And it's a darker sound, maybe a sadder sound you could say. Coming from the dominant 7th chord, to get this minor 7th chord, all we did was we took the 3rd, or the major 3rd, and we moved it down a half step. So we had this for the dominant 7th. For the minor 7th, we have this. Again, only one note difference. There's a couple ways to do the fingering for this chord. Let me show you the first way. Here I'm taking my 3rd finger and I'm placing it on the 6th string on the 3rd fret. And then I'm just barring the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings with my ring finger here on the 3rd fret. And again, you want to make sure that you get each note in the chord to ring clearly. The other way to play this chord is just simply barring the entire 3rd fret. Although we only play the 6th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string with our right hand. But we are barring across the entire 3rd fret with our index finger. So here we have the G, the F natural, the B flat, and the D. Now for the right hand, you can practice these chords in two different ways. One is arpeggiated like this, where each note rings out in succession. But then you should also try playing them in a piano block style. And in this way, you're grabbing every single note at the same time, with this kind of squeezing motion with your fingers into your palm like this. Alright, so now let's look at the half-diminished 7th chord. To get this one, we need to move the 5th down a half step to the D flat. And this half-diminished 7th chord is actually a big part of the jazz sound. We'll use this chord anytime we're doing a 2-5-1 in a minor key. So the fingering I'm doing here is, I'm using my 3rd finger on the 6th string 3rd fret, that's the G, and then I'm taking my ring finger and I'm putting it on the 4th string on the 3rd fret, which is the F, and then I have my pinky playing the B flat or the minor 3rd on the 3rd string on the 3rd fret, and then finally I'm taking my index finger and I'm placing that on the 2nd string on the 2nd fret to get the flatted 5th. And then finally, let's learn the fully diminished 7th chord. For this one, we need to move the flat 7 down a half step. So in this case, we're going from an F to an E. And this chord sounds like this. As you can hear, it has a very suspenseful kind of sound. So for this one, I've got my 3rd finger on the 6th string 3rd fret. My index finger is playing on the 4th string on the 2nd fret. Then I'm taking my ring finger and placing that on the 3rd string on the 3rd fret. And to get the D flat, I'm kind of barring on the 2nd fret here, on the 2nd string. I'm catching both the E and the D flat together. So I'm catching both the 4th string and the 2nd string on the 2nd fret together to get this. And remember, you want to play these chords in both an arpeggiated fashion like this, and also a block fashion like this. So now that we've gone through all the chord types with the root on the 6th string, I want to show you the same chord types with the root on the 5th string. And these are equally as important to know as those with the root starting on the 6th string. And here's why that is. Let's say we had a song where the chords went from a G major 7th chord to a C major 7th chord. If we know the versions of the major 7th chord with the root starting both on the 6th string and with the root starting on the 5th string, We can do something like this, where we go from the G major 7 to the C major 7, and you can see how close these are in position. We don't have to move our hand much on the fretboard at all. If we only knew the chords with the root starting on the 6th string, and we wanted to go from the G major 7 to the C major 7, we'd probably end up doing a lot of jumping around like this. G major 7 to C major 7. And you can see, especially if we were playing something up-tempo, how inefficient this might be. I mean, we could do it, of course, but it's a lot easier and more comfortable to do it like this. One of the things to keep in mind, though, is that if you are playing the chords with the root on the 5th string, of course you're going to have a slightly different sound. But now let's get into the actual fingerings. So for the 5th string roots, let's do everything in the key of C. We'll start off with the major 7th chord. So we'll start with C with the root on the 5th string, 3rd fret. And now for this one, I'm using my ring finger and I'm placing it on the 4th string on the 5th fret to get the G. Then I'm taking my 3rd finger and I'm placing that one on the 3rd string on the 4th fret to get the major 7th or the B natural. And then finally, I'm taking my pinky and I'm placing that one on the 2nd string on the 5th fret. And that gives us the major 3rd or the E natural. And it sounds like this. Again, with the right hand, you're looking to play these with all the notes ringing out in succession like that, and also playing them all at the same time, like that. Remembering that it's really important to get each note to be heard distinctly and clearly in the chord. Now let's move on to the next chord type. To go from the major 7th to the dominant 7th, we just need to change one note. We take the major 7th, or the B, and we move it down a half step to the B flat, or the flatted 7th. And it sounds like this. I'm placing my index finger here on the 5th string on the 3rd fret. I'm placing my ring finger on the 4th string on the 5th fret. And then with this one, I'm barring with my index finger to get the B flat on the 3rd string, 3rd fret. So I have a bar going across from the C, B flat, 5th string and 3rd string to get that. My ring finger here on the G natural, 5th fret, 4th string. And then finally, my pinky is playing the major 3rd, or the E, on the 2nd string, 5th fret. Now let's move on to the minor 7th with the root on the 5th string. So this one sounds like this. And we have the index finger playing the C natural, or the root, on the 5th string, 3rd fret. We've got our ring finger playing the G on the 4th string, 5th fret. And just like with the dominant 7th, we're barring this. So the index finger plays both the C and the B flat on the 5th string and the 3rd string, 3rd fret. And then finally we take our 3rd finger and place that on the E flat, or the minor 3rd, on the 2nd string, 4th fret. And it's that E flat or minor 3rd which really gives the sound to the minor 7th chord, which again is that darker or sadder sound. Now to get the half-diminished 7th chord, what we want to do is take that 5th, or the G, and move that down a half step to the G flat. That gives us the flatted 5th of the chord. In the half-diminished sounds like this. Index finger on the C, 5th string, 3rd fret. Ring finger on the G flat, 4th string, 4th fret. Middle finger on the 3rd string, 3rd fret. And pinky on the 2nd string, 4th fret, to give the E flat. Now let's get our final chord type starting on the 5th string root, and that is the fully diminished 7th. So we have C diminished 7th here. And for this one, we have our middle finger playing on the 5th string, 3rd fret. We place our ring finger on the 4th string, 4th fret. Our index finger is going to go on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. And finally, we have our pinky playing on the 2nd string on the 4th fret. So let's play all of them. Let's play the major 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th, half-diminished 7th, and fully diminished 7th. Here's the major 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th, half-diminished 7th, and diminished 7th. And then in block style, C major 7, C dominant 7, C minor 7, C half-diminished 7, and C fully diminished 7th. Alright, so now that we've been through all of the chord types with the root both on the 6th string and the root on the 5th string as well, we can talk about some ways to practice these chord types so we can really integrate them into our playing. So the first exercise that I like to do is to just stay in one key and to cycle through all the chord types. So if we were in the key of G, for example, we can start with G major 7, then move to G dominant 7, G minor 7, G half diminished 7, and G fully diminished 7th. And then we can take that through all the different keys. We can go up a half step to A flat major 7, A flat dominant 7, A flat minor 7, and so on. But one thing I like to do is to practice this going through the circle of fourths. And if you know the circle of fourths, it's C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and so on. So what we can do, for example, is we can start with C. C major 7, go through all the chord types, the dominant, the minor 7, the half diminished, the fully diminished, etc. Then move to F, and so on. And then B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. So this is just one way to get familiar with the chords, is by going around the cycle of fourths. You can do it around the cycle of fifths as well. So once you're comfortable with that, now we can try bouncing from the version on the 6th string root to the version on the 5th string root. So for example, we can start with C major 7, get it on the 6th string, then the version with the 5th string root, and then we can do C dominant 7 on the 6th string, C dominant 7 on the 5th string, and so on. Minor 7, half diminished 7th, fully diminished 7th, and move to the F, dominant, minor, etc. So in doing both of these exercises, what you're really looking for is to just get as familiar as you can be all over the neck. Because when you're on a gig or when you're playing, you've got a tune open and you want to read it right on the spot, you don't want to be searching for the chord. You don't want to miss a beat, really. You basically want to be able to see the chord on the page and jump to it immediately on the guitar neck. One other thing I'd suggest to do is to say the name of the chords as you're playing them. And this is really just another really good way to internalize the chords. So let's say C major 7, C dominant 7, A major 7, A dominant 7, G minor 7, G half diminished 7th, A major 7th, A dominant 7th, and so on. Whatever you're doing all around the neck, just make sure you also verbalize and say the name of the chord. So you're making that association. Another thing I'd suggest doing, and this is something that I used to do a lot, I would grab a real book or a fake book and I would flip to some random page to some random tune, and I would see if I could play through that tune immediately and find the chords and the chord types somewhere on the guitar neck, whether the chord was the chord with the root on the 6th string or the chord with the root on the 5th string, for example. And the more you do this, the more confident you'll get that you can open up almost any chord chart and read through it on the spot. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to bring you much more. See you next time.